Okay, now we're going to talk about how to create a camera and how to do a rendering with a camera. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my tool space, my workspace is in 3D modeling. And it'll look like this when we look at our home ribbon. And if we go into visualize, really the only difference that we see is that create camera is in our menu. Okay, so it's pretty much the same as the other workspace. Okay, so to create a camera, it's pretty easy. I just go into this axonometric. You can see I've created a camera here already, and I can create camera. I just click it in, and then I aim it at what I want to see. Okay, and then I can do a couple of things. I can change the height. So at the moment here it's at 1500 mil. I'd keep it at 1500 mil, and I can change the lens and the clipping and stuff like that. I find these controls, they're sometimes a bit hard to use. So if you just press exit, that will set up your camera, and then if you click on your camera, you can actually set those controls using the the tabs for the camera. So for example, if I want to change the position, I can just click on the camera itself and raise it and lower it. Notice that like I'm looking from the side in this view. Then if I wanted to change where it's pointing, I can just go to a plan or something like that and move it around that way. Maybe move it in a bit closer here. And I generally find that's the easiest way to actually edit the camera. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to see our camera view. So the easiest way to do this is to go to View Manager and just make sure you're in like a different viewport. So I'm in this top right-hand viewport, and you can see we've got our cameras here. It'll always show this view first. Okay, so I'm just going to open up the model views, and the cameras are generally named sequentially. So camera 1 is this one here. This was the pre-existing camera, and this is the one we just created here. Okay, and then you set current and apply, and you see the way that view has changed. I go okay, and then and then I can start to render. So I can open up my rendering preferences here. So if I just click on this arrow here, it'll open them up. So it's typically set to render in window. So that's an external window. I can show what that looks like. Render in window. This is your render in window. I'm just going to close that for a moment. And my current preset is medium. And I can set up more presets if I want. And I'm happy with that. So then I can just click on my teapot and that will render it. Okay, so I'm making sure that I'm within this view, okay, because that will render this view, okay. And I click and it renders. And that took 9 seconds. And that looks pretty good, okay. Like what I could do now is, if I wasn't happy with that, I could crop it in slightly, just to make sure I'm holding on to this. So this tab here I can crop that in slightly. That's giving me a narrower view. Okay. I seem to be missing out on the bottom of the stool there. You can see it just there. So I'm just going to click there and make it a bit wider. And that's looking good. And now I can just update that. Camera 2, set current, apply. Okay. So we've rendered that and it took 10 seconds to do. So let's see if we want to do a high resolution rendering of this, how long it would take. So I'm going to start this and then break the video to come back to see how long it takes. So I'm going to set this up so it'll do an A4 rendering when we press go now. So the first thing we notice is that it's actually producing a rendering that is A4 in portrait size. Starting off at 15 seconds, it's 1% done. Okay, so I'm going to come back to this when it's finished. Now we can see that that render has taken 1 hour to do. So that render was at 2480, 350 at A4. So that's not the most huge render in the world, but it took 1 hour to do. So give it 8-bit, 256 color, and our dots per inch is 300. I'll just save it there. And then we'll have a look at a smaller render just to see the difference between the two. So here's our other render. It took 13 seconds to do, and that was rendered at 800 by 600 pixels. Okay, so if we look at these in Photoshop, so I'm going to open up Photoshop, and this is just to show you the quality of the two renders. So this is the low resolution render, and if we zoom in, we can see that there's lots of pixels, and some of the pixels are not looking great. And if we look in at the corner here, this is like a mosaic. Okay, so it's quite low resolution and it wouldn't really be suitable for printing. Okay, if we look at the other one, this is our other render, and clearly it is suitable for rendering. We can see into the corner here, that slip there can be seen, and we can see the rail has decent modeling on it. Okay, and if you want to save time, you can render these things in the cloud. It usually is much faster and produces much higher quality.